Chapter 9. Aslaug's ancestry comes to light. Eystein was the name of the king who ruled Sweden at this time. He was married, and his daughter was named Ingebjorg. She was the most beautiful of all women, the best of all to look upon. King Eystein was powerful and popular, cruel and yet wise. His throne was at Uppsala. He was a great maker of sacrifices, and in his time at Uppsala there were such huge sacrifices that there were never greater ones anywhere in Scandinavia. The Swedes had a superstition about a cow they called Sibylla. So many sacrifices had been made to this cow that no one could withstand hearing the terrible sounds it made. And it was the king's custom, when he expected war, to let this cow lead his troops. And so much demonic power was in this cow that Eystein's enemies, when they heard it, were driven so crazy that they fought amongst themselves and did not heed their own friends. And for this reason the Swedes were left in peace, because no man dared to fight against such overwhelming power. King Eystein was a good friend to many men and chieftains, and it is said there was great friendship between King Eystein and Ragnar at this time. They had a custom of visiting each other for a feast in alternating summers. It came time for Ragnar to visit Eystein for a feast. When he arrived in Uppsala, he and his men were welcomed well, and after they had drunk the first evening, King Eystein ordered his daughter to serve Ragnar and himself. Ragnar's men spoke amongst themselves, saying that there was nothing for Ragnar to do except ask for the hand of the king's daughter, and no longer be married to a farmer's daughter. Each of his men encouraged him to do this, and it ended with Eystein's daughter engaged to Ragnar, though she was not to be married to him for some time. When the feast ended, Ragnar went home, and his journey was without incident. Nothing is said of his travels until he was a short way from his home, and his path led him through a certain forest. He and his men came to a clearing in the woods, and then Ragnar ordered his men to halt. Then he told them to listen, and he told all his men who had been with him on his visit to the Swedes that they were forbidden to talk about his plan to marry the daughter of King Eystein. He added, by way of emphasis, that if anyone did speak of it, he would lose nothing less than his life. When he had said what he wanted, he went home. His men were happy when he returned home, and they drank beer in celebration of his return. When he sat down once again on his throne, and had not been there very long, Cracker came into the hall and sat on Ragnar's lap. She placed her arms around his neck and asked, "What is the news?" Ragnar said there was nothing to tell. As the evening passed, the men drank and went to sleep. When Ragnar and Cracker went to bed, she asked him again what the news was, and he said he didn't know any. She wanted to keep talking, but Ragnar said he was very sleepy and worn out from travelling. "Then I will tell you some news," she said, "if you won't tell me any." He asked what this news might be. "I call it news," she said, "if a king is engaged to a woman, when some would say that he already has a wife." "Who told you this?" asked Ragnar. "Let your men keep their lives and limbs, because none of them told me," she said. "You must have seen that 3 birds sat in the tree nearby you, and it was they who told me this news. I ask you not to do this thing you have planned, and I tell you that I am a king's daughter, not a farmer's, and my father was such a great man that there has never been his equal, and my mother was the wisest and most beautiful of all women, and her name will be famous as long as the world lasts." Ragnar asked who her father was, and if she was not the daughter of the poor farmer at Spangarhyde. Aslaug replied that she was the daughter of Sigurd, killer of Fafnir, and that her mother was Brynhild, daughter of Budli. Ragnar said, "It seems extremely unlikely to me that their daughter would be named Crow, or that their child would grow up in such poverty as I saw at Spangarhyde." Then she said, "There is a story behind this," and she told him, beginning her story with Sigurd's meeting with Brynhild on the mountain where she was conceived. "And when Brynhild gave birth, I was given the name Aslaug." And now she told him everything that had happened since she and Hymir first met Aki and Grima. "These are terrible things that you say happened to Aslaug," said Ragnar. She said, "You know that I am pregnant. The child I give birth to will be a boy, and that boy will have an odd trait. It will seem that a snake is in the boy's eye. And if this comes true, I ask that you not return to the Swedes at the time you agreed to marry King Eystein's daughter. But if this does not come true, then do as you want. But I want the boy to be named after my father if this mark of distinction is in his eye, as I predict it will be." The time came when Aslaug felt the birth pangs coming, and then she gave birth, and the child was a boy. The midwives took the boy and showed her. Then she said that he should be taken to Ragnar for him to see. This was done, and the young boy was brought into the hall and laid on Ragnar's lap. When Ragnar saw the boy, they asked him what he should be named. He spoke this poem. "His name will be Sigurd. This boy will make battles. They will say the son is much like both his father and mother. He will be listed prominently in the heroes of Odin's family. The boy with the snake eye will be the killer of many." Ragnar took a golden ring from his hand and gave it to the boy as a naming gift. And when Ragnar reached forward with the ring in his hand, the boy turned his back to him, and Ragnar took this as a sign that he would hate gold. And now he spoke this poem. "Brynhild's good grandson shows men that he has fierce shining eyes and the boldest of hearts. Budli's great-grandson refuses a ring of pure gold. This early blooming swordsman will be the stronger than all men." And then he spoke this. "I never saw brown serpents in the eyes of any boy, except in Sigurd's alone. He is easy to recognize, this ungreedy boy. He's sharp in the eye. He's got a snake there." Ragnar ordered his son to be taken back to Aslaug's room. This was the end of his plans to go to Sweden, and Aslaug's ancestry was revealed to everyone, so that they knew she was the daughter of Sigurd, the killer of Fafnir, and of Brynhild, the daughter of Budli.